What's going on, Cavs fans? Spencer German, Spencer Davies with you, recapping a thrilling 126-106 win for the Cleveland Cavaliers over the Miami Heat tonight. Spence, I use the word thrilling because I know you, when we jumped on here, said that was a fun game. And I tend to agree, especially because of some of the people that were involved in making it happen. We'll get into some of that, but I think the night sort of starts with the idea that you don't have Darius Garland. He has kind of a rest night, first night of a back-to-back on the road, nonetheless. Weird road trip, obviously, as well as you go on the road, then come back home quickly. And they still were able to put up 126 points, and they still were able to win by double digits against a team that, generally has had their number. And I think that was, obviously an impressive thing for this team to do. They just keep finding role players who are willing to step up and contribute and find ways to keep getting the job done.
Depth is key, man, and we're going to get into everyone that helped us out, but, Donovan set the tone in that first quarter, really. I think the way that he was getting to his mid-range shot, and then that kind of opened up his pull-up three-game, going to the left side, step backs, and then also getting to the rim. I thought that he did a really good job utilizing his floater. Not too many free throws for the Cavaliers tonight, only 6, but they were able to convert a lot of their shots inside that arc and find ways to do it efficiently and effectively. And then it all started on the defensive end, the way that these guys were getting their hands into deflections and just poking out rebounds. We've got to give a huge shout out to Jaylen Tyson and Craig Porter Jr. just being ready for when their number's called. Tyson with 30 minutes tonight. You see the box score, you see 4, 5, and 3. You're probably like, what is that? What's that about? But when you watch the game, you understand how impactful he is at just bringing the energy, defensively getting into guys, and then the hustle plays that really stick out and fueled this team and got him off to a good start.
Cavs scored 68 points in the paint tonight to Miami's 38. And that kind of tells, I think, the story of this game, because it was another night spent, back-to-back wins for the Cavs. But back-to-back wins where you're not really they didn't really shoot all that well, particularly from beyond the arc. I mean, the Cavs were just 31% from three tonight, which, you kind of expect that when some of your better three-point shooters in general are out. DG was also out on top of that. So you're missing some of your perimeter scoring. But they found ways to attack inside. Evan Mobley, as we talked about in the podcast today, still trying to kind of get his legs back underneath him. He had a really good game. He was 0-2 from three to contribute to that 3-point percentage, but he was 10 of 15 from the floor. And you talked about how his pivots were kind of back looking smooth, and 22 points. He had 15 rebounds, so a double for him. And Allen 12 points and 10 rebounds to sort of support those efforts. Like, both those guys had doubles, and it was obvious that, like, again, as we talked, like, stylistically, like, this team can win in different ways. Having those two guys in the middle is a huge bonus. And again, on a night where you didn't shoot the ball great, seeing them dominate and seeing the Cavs still blow a team out by 20 points, it speaks to, again, the depth of this team, but also just their ability to sort of adapt and adjust as different games go and win different ways.
And they were really bruising him on the inside, as you mentioned. On the rebounds, it wasn't just the big guys. Everybody else contributed too. Out-rebounded Miami by 12, 47-35, so that was big time. But you have 25 of those come from the Tower City, and that's just kind of showing you what the game was going like. Kel'el Ware was the talk of the town coming into this game. He kind of had a rookie-like game against these guys because they're established. Evan and Jarrett, of course. Bam Adebayo had a good game, was pretty efficient, but they were really trying to force Tyler Hero into taking some bad shots. I know he got going there in the second half, but 9 of 20 from the field, almost like this game was similar to the Pistons game in that they didn't shoot that well, but they defended their butts off, and they were able to come out with the win. A little bit of a mishap in the third quarter, giving up 40-plus to Miami. They course-corrected that right on the spot, and that's really the calling card for the Cavs when they can make things happen and really kind of wear teams down. And you kind of brought it up that it was just everyone across the board. I mean, we didn't even mention Ty Jerome, the game he's had and the season he's having at being able to find these crevices, whether it's playmaking to his teammates on drive and dumps, drive and kicks. He had just some ridiculous little float shots today that went down. He is just such a catalyst for this team, no matter what. And I have to acknowledge, too, Kenny Atkinson was really smart about lineup management tonight, in my opinion. you had a lot of Ty Jerome and Max Strus, and you had a lot of Donovan Mitchell and Craig Porter Jr. And then you also saw those 3-guard lineups that we've mentioned so many times on Courtside with Cavs on SI, that you were able to speed up a little bit and give them some matchup problems and kind of try to fend you off in a way, because the Cavs were just coming from all angles. And defensively, it really, really shook things up for them, because anytime someone rotated over to a ball swing that Miami would make, it would put them in a situation where they had to throw cross-court passes, and the Cavs would take advantage with either a deflection or a steal, and then it was off to the races the other end. One of my favorite plays was when the Cavs got a steal. Max Strus was bringing it up the floor. He had a bounce pass to Craig Porter Jr. He knifed in between 2 Heat players and finished left in traffic in a small space where Bam Adebayo was contesting. That, I think, is just goes to show how Craig is just ready to play. He's ready for the moment. Obviously, that experience last year was big for him to just get his feet wet in those moments. Remember that Philly game where he went right at Joel Embiid? Did the same thing tonight in transition against Bam Adebayo with that finish, and really was making some heads-up plays. I remember the inbound pass where he was just kind of sneaking around, cuts to the rim, easy 2. He had a pull-up 3. Like, Craig had a really good game too, and I think that we have to acknowledge that. Jaylen Tyson, George Niang got 15 points tonight, had 4 boards. Just across the board, these guys are just, they're so deep. And the fact that you can put 10 guys out there any night, no matter who it is, and they can have this kind of performance speaks volumes.
Yeah, I also thought an interesting part, and I will say, like, being able to dominate the way they did inside against Bam Adebayo is super encouraging, because I mean he is one of the better, two-way bigs in this league, where he can do it on both ends. He's a good rim protector, but he can also attack you. And the Cavs have somewhat of an advantage, I think, in the NBA in general, because they have 2 guys that can do that to a lot of teams with Mobley and Allen. But to see those guys dominate in that way, and to that kind of be the focal point tonight against their best player, because obviously no Jimmy Butler, was an encouraging thing. I also thought it was telling, like, even when the Heat got the game close, late third quarter going into the fourth quarter, the Cavs were quick to, in that fourth, sort of slam the door and build the lead back up to I don't know if it got down to single digits.
It got down to 8.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say, I knew it was close. I knew it was either 8 or 10. And then they quickly built it back up to a double-digit lead, and then, like, pulled away even further. And some of that was Donovan Mitchell sort of, taking over at the right times, which is something that he's juggled this year, like the right times to do that. But on a night with no DG, he certainly took the reins of that, and with Mobley kind of getting a feel for things again. And then, but it wasn't just him either. Like, you bring up Craig Porter Jr., he had a really nice play in that game. Jaylen Tyson had the nice lob to Mobley for the dunk. That kind of felt like the moment where it was like, okay, the Cavs are going to be okay. They're going to pull this one out. So yeah, like it to your point on, like, depth, like, it was another game where it was multiple people contributing from like up and down the roster, and it took everybody to sort of get there and get this one to the finish line. But they still dominated the way that they've tended to throughout the season.
Yeah, and it started all on the defensive end, like I said, when they were able to just kind of rotate and be there, cover for your man, and then cover for the cover. Like, they had such synergy defensively tonight, just the way they were moving their feet and making the Heat kind of play their game. Because I remember there was a moment where Jovic caught it in the paint on a pick and roll, and Evan was standing right there, and immediately Jovic had to kick it out to Terry Rozier. By the way, Rozier, really solid night for him tonight. Big surprise playing the Cavs, always has those. But it just kind of speaks volumes as to how the Cavs are able to alter and make you think twice about going somewhere that you're comfortable. And they made it real uncomfortable on Miami tonight. And we mentioned the guys across the board. I thought that Max Strus, even though he didn't have the greatest shooting night, defensively, again, was really good when he was on Tyler Hero. Duncan Robinson really didn't get much room at all tonight. He had 3 threes, but most of those were when it was a blowout. And he was chasing them around, doing a good job. I just, across the board, these guys just have such a good knowledge, and they're such a mature team. I think that's another thing about how they've kind of handled themselves this year. Every time that there's any sort of adversity, they always respond. You saw it on Monday. Very similar game tonight in Miami as to what they played on Monday as well. So,
Yeah, and we talked about Jaylen Tyson already a little bit, but I will say this: like, I don't know. We talked so much about like what this rotation looks like come playoff time. Like how much can Kenny get away with playing 10 or 11 deep in the playoffs? It's just a different beast. We know that. Like you generally every team kind of relies on their starters more because those are the guys that are going to win you games that time of year, and you're not going like 10 guys down the roster necessarily. But like Jaylen Tyson playing in games like this and getting starter reps and starter minutes, that's huge for if you do need him in a spot in the playoffs, or if he comes in a key situation, he's going to feel comfortable about certain things because he's experienced them already. No, he hasn't experienced them on that stage of the playoffs, but like I can't emphasize enough like how valuable that is for a young player to already be doing that. And I think it's also cool because Spence, like we were there when he was drafted, and then his introductory press conference, and he talked about like, yeah, like I feel like I'm gonna be playing this year. Like I feel like I can contribute immediately, and to see that kind of come to fruition for him has been awesome. And he's not trying to like overthink it. He's not trying to do too much. He's just playing to what he does well, and he's playing within the system. And you know what we saw from him tonight, what we've seen from him in other spurts has been really encouraging.
There's a negative connotation associated with system player, but I feel like he kind of relishes being that system player.
It's kind of like when we call quarterbacks game managers.
almost to the same ilk. But look, I mean, Jaylen starts the game out. He gets an offensive rebound, and then he forces a shot clock violation. That's the very beginning of the game when you knew that he was going to be engaged. Yeah. Like, those are the type of plays. And again, like, on both ends, just sticking his hand in there and making sure that guys are getting opportunities to get second chances or to get a defensive rebound. He's not credited with those. But you could see easily 10, 11, 12 times tonight that he was responsible for the Cavs securing a possession. Those are huge times. You look at when he's running the floor and he has an open lane, probably, you know, trying to look to finish in traffic for most guys, but he kicks it out to the corner and gets guys 2 threes, right? Those are the plays that I think stand out and show that he's well beyond his maturity that he should be as a rookie. And these are things that Kenny Atkinson's going to have to think about when guys get back into the rotation, because I think he's earning a spot in the rotation, at least in the regular season at this point, and you got to see what more you have out of him because he's got more length, he's got a little bit more strength. Like, he had the opportunity to defend Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero, but there were plays like where he would body up Nikola Jovic on the baseline. So that just shows the versatility and the way that he's able to kind of guard different positions and really kind of be a Mr. Do-It-All for them.
Yeah, I think a good place to sort of bring the conversation next, Spence, is we know that this is the first night of a back-to-back. They come home, they play the Hawks tomorrow. And so much has been made of this team against longer teams. And the Hawks are a team that beat them in back-to-back games earlier this year already. As part of one of those games was as part of the play-in tournament, or I always want to call it the play-in tournament, the in-season tournament. And knocked the Cavs out of even having a chance to play in that. But I think this game is a big one because of that narrative, like the narrative that they struggle against those longer teams, like getting them on your home floor, chance to kind of prove yourself. Because I think we've seen the signs, Spence, that they can hang with those teams. They've beaten the Celtics, they've beaten some of the other teams that have the length to them. But that team has still kind of been a bugaboo for them. So I'm fascinated to see if they keep the streak alive, if they're able to kind of come back home on a tough situation, second out of a back-to-back, and how they fare against a team that characteristically we know can give them some trouble, but I do think they've shown that they can hang with those teams this year, and I want to see how they respond.
Well, they're getting a little bit of help, unfortunately, and I hate this because, I talked to him earlier in the year and saw just his star rising, but Jalen Johnson, one of their key pieces, like one of their top players, is out for the season with a torn labrum.
Right.
So he's one that gave the Cavs all sorts of issues in those matchups, so he will not obviously be playing. You're going to see guys like Mo Gay and Vit Krejci, who are getting rotational minutes for the Hawks now, but DeAndre Hunter always has given the Cavs some issues. Onyeka Okongwu will obviously be up for that battle, facing off against his USC alum as well with Evan Mobley. So that should be fun to watch, but we will see how it goes. I know that Trae Young is probable going into tomorrow, so that we'll be keeping an eye on that status. But coming back from Miami, they're probably going to get into town, I would assume. I don't know, like 2 a.m., 3 a.m., unfortunately. Hopefully they get some sleep tomorrow. Obviously, they're not going to have shoot around, so the Hawks will have a little more rest. They had a game on Monday, but I think that they'll be up for this one, even though it's on the second night of a back-to-back. They probably heard the murmurs, let's be honest. So I feel like they'll be rested and ready. And obviously, DG didn't play tonight, so DG will be ready to come out guns and blazing tomorrow.
Yeah, no, that'll be huge to get him back out there. We'll see how they do respond. Another weird, quirky back-to-back for the Cavs in the month of January, similar to that one when they went from Houston to Philly and then Philly home for a back-to-back. So we'll see how they respond. Real quick here, I'll throw in some of the comments. We got Kirk.
Appreciate you guys.
No hate tweeting from me today. Does he hate tweet you, Spence? Is that a thing?
No, he always posts the SpongeBob gifs when I send out a bad injury report. Much love, Kirk. Much love.
Awesome. We got Tom S., who always tunes in. CP, Tyson, TT, great minutes tonight. He mentioned Strus ran them down. He continues to do that on the defensive end, man. He's been relentless. And we'll just end with Cleveland Cavaliers. I don't know how you get the handle.
How do you get that
Cavaliers.
handle? Yeah,
That's
how
crazy.
do you get that handle?
Good for unless it's is this the real Cavaliers? I don't think it is it?
I don't know if we're up on that status yet.
They said, "Let's go." I hope it is. Hey, all we need is Cavs Frog jumping in the comments, and our lives will be fulfilled. At least my life will be fulfilled. Spence will live on, but I can die happy after that. Yeah. Good stuff tonight, guys. We appreciate you jumping in. We, as always, encourage you to head on over to the Cleveland Cavaliers on SI YouTube channel, where many of you might be watching this right now for any of our post-game comments and stuff throughout the week, press conferences, and more. We also dropped I was going to say, we just dropped our latest episode of Courtside with the Cavs on SI up there as well. I feel like we need to start just calling it Courtside with the Cavs, Spence, because it's like a mouthful to add all of that together. And we can
branding, Spence.
Here's what we need to do. We need to make it Courtside with the Cavs on SI. Like we have to whisper it because it's just like it's a lot of words. But we'll work on the delivery of it. But that's up as well. And Spence and I might be dropping an episode later this week. We will find out tomorrow who the All-Star reserves are going to be. So there'll be some stuff to talk about. And of course, we will have a post-game reaction to whatever happens against the Atlanta Hawks tomorrow night on Thursday. In the meantime, guys, have a great night. We will be back in full force tomorrow, the same way Darius Garland will after a night of rest. Thanks for watching, and keep on following along with all things Cleveland Cavaliers, the Cleveland Cavaliers on SI.